With today being the 3-year anniversary of that time, I thought, hey, let's count every time Ash dies. I now thought it'd be a good time to rekindle that video and collect every single time Ash has died, all into one video to address all the comments mentioning that I missed one death. Because Ash decided to die 5 months after that, as if they really like my top 5 and wanted to give me a reason to make another one. If he dies shortly after this, we're doing this again in 3 years. We'll be running through every single time Ash has died with an updated ranking of how good of a scene it was based on how it's felt after all these years with the evolution of Ash. We'll definitely include that death that was new at the time, as well as one that was slightly updated, so 1.5 new ones here. Number 6. The Tower of Terror. The time of Ash meeting Haunter and his gang of spiritual trolls is a classic death to start off with. It's a bit more on the funny, cartoony side of Ash dying, as it should be with how much of a different contrast there is between Ash dying in a movie and dying in a regular episode. That makes it hard to compete with the other deaths. You have 30 minutes to set up a narrative and have Ash die within that, as well as being revived, compared to 2 hours to sail through a whole story and have it happen as if it's second nature to writing a Pokemon movie. That makes it hard to climb up on this list, but it is still a great one to start with. It is a real memorable moment seeing Ash and Pikachu vanquished into ghosts as a chandelier drops onto them and knocking them into the spirit world with the 3 ghostly stooges, but still having Ash and Pikachu remain together to see what the afterlife is like. Not very good, gonna be honest here. They do have a fun time messing with their friends, flying them into the sky and dropping them. Not really the first thing you usually do after you die, but they had maybe 8 minutes left in this episode, not enough time for an existential crisis. For some. It does set the tone for the silly Pokemon these 3 ghosts are, and Haunter is one of the wishes for Pokemon Ash had kept with him. The biggest question asked, however, is how did either of them die from being electrocuted by the drop chandelier when Pikachu is an electric type, and Ash is constantly electrocuted by Pikachu? I don't know how to respond to those comments, this is an anime. Maybe real world electricity is just significantly more powerful than electric attacks. Maybe it's really strong. You can take out a Pikachu in battle with Thunderbolts if you use it enough times. How is this the question? They're grabbing souls out of dead bodies. That's a lot less realistic than electrical consistency and the Volts needed to knock these 2 out. Number 5. Pokemon Ranger. The order starts to mix up after this one, but the death in this movie really maintains itself as well as it used to, in essentially the same spot compared to the rest, with the new one pushing it down a little bit, but having it remain as a heartfelt scene, because they swap hearts. Ash's death by large amounts of water in this movie is a much more dramatic scene, but comparable to him plunging into the sea during Pokemon 2000. The difference is this is a much more extended dive, and with a lot more emphasis on having to revive Ash as he swims to the bottom of the underwater castle for a longer period of time. It has that staple Ash must save the world feeling and sacrifice himself to do so, but does miss a little bit of that typical charm you get from a usual Ash death, where there's really just not enough time to bask in the moment of all of what is going on with him before he is immediately revived. I could only get half a cry in during this movie's death scene, and that's not good. There's a lot of water in this movie. I was at least trying to keep it competitive with my tears. It does however give a good spotlight to May and her endearing hope for Ash to live, along with Ash's charming self, bringing him even closer to another mythical Pokemon who needs to save him as he bravely protects them in a waterproof pod and jumps into the flood to save them. He didn't even check the temperature of the water with like a quick dip of his foot before diving in. He knew what he had to do. Ash is a brave soul. Number 4. Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. With how many people die in this one movie, it's not just an Ash death, it's an us death. A lot of people die, not just him, that's what I'm trying to say here. Maybe that gets a little saturated for some, so it isn't as standoutish of a moment. Oh, Ash is dying, but so are 6 other people? Not a very exclusive death there, Ash, sharing your talents a little too much. I found it somewhat of a surprise at the very least. The call from Ash saying he loves Pikachu is a real heartfelt moment.
I'll miss you, buddy. I love you.
Seeing him disintegrate into his Jello cup, however, is a bit of a different feeling than the other movies. It is more of a quick scene where you're seeing all these people running from the blobs like the Pokemon getting captured in the first movie and being turned into clones, except this time it's the humans. But it does give that adrenaline feeling of how are they going to get out of this one, much like earlier in the movie when Ash ran across those slippery crystallized tree roots in his Die Hard parkour scene. And you wonder how he keeps dying after he does that. After Ash gets blobbed up last, the focus ends up on Pikachu where he has to ask Mew to save Ash. This is where the more sad side of things come into play, as seeing Pikachu crying after the I love you call out and knowing Pikachu can't do anything but ask for help is what really brings the sentiment of the scene to a higher degree, rather than the fact that they were all attacked by pudding. Number 3. Pokemon Black. This scene is where the real emotions start flowing, as having those moments where Ash is encased in a tomb of no escape with other Pokemon he ends up bonding with is really what brings in that sincere feeling. Ash having this moment with Pikachu and Victini as he freezes in this very tight space brings the endearing quality of the time he was in a frozen cave with his Gen 1 pals and mixes that with the sadness of a more typical Ash in a movie death scene as Victini and Pikachu are thinking that they're gonna lose him. The two Pokemon do share their moments with Ash before Victini fires up out of pure sadness and Noah needs to save Ash as Ash cries from thinking he's gonna have to leave them. Even leading up to this, where Ash is strongly gripping onto his two friends, asking him to think about what he can do, and being almost frozen, still thinking about Victini's wishes before almost meeting his demise, really tugs on the heartstrings and jump out as one of the saddest, loving scenes in Pokemon. Number 2. Mewtwo Strikes Back, and the evolution. How could anyone forget one of the most emotional scenes brought to you by Ash's lifespan? Although the Tower of Terror may technically be the first death, that was in more of a comedic way, where this was meant to have you sniffle a little bit in the theater with a hard focus on the screen to see what would happen next. They even remade this movie to show you how this scene would go, but updated it as if it happened in the year 2500 with its animation. The classic memory of seeing Ash run into the battle in the original and being hit from both sides with a powerful blast from Mew and Mewtwo fighting it out really set the pace for how scenes could portray the ways Pokemon could be seen differently in many forms. Not only seeing Ash be grounded to the floor and having Pikachu run over to hope he is okay, but also seeing the legendary mythical Pokemon coming to terms with what they did to him really reached for some tissue sponsorships. It is nice to see that remastered into the new movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, and seeing it all play out again, but made with Play-Doh. However, the memories the scene has brought stands out to Pokemon fans everywhere, and seeing it again is still wondrous. The desperation of Pikachu shocking a stoned Ash, the sentiment of Mewtwo calling him a fool, and the tears of all the Pokemon reviving Ash made this a memorable and heart-wrenching, but scientifically incorrect scene. How is crying going to restore a person who was turned to stone? At least Mew and Manaphy revived him in the previously mentioned movies, and Victini warmed him up from freezing. Tears are not to be relied on as a method. Someone please use Heal Bell. This is a room filled with 50 Pokemon, all with moves. Okay, wrong gen for that move, not invented yet. And not sure what else you can use here, but at least Pikachu tried to get a pulse with some electricity. Maybe didn't learn you could not do that to a rock even after the first gym battle, but I guess that's what you had the tears there for, to make the electricity effective for a heart rate, because Mewtwo didn't set up a fire code. Regardless of how you see the scene, whether it be in the original or the Robot Chicken version, it will forever be remembered as one of Ash's revivals of the century. Number 1. I Choose You. This is the one everyone has been waiting for 3 years, and a real deserving moment for the number 1 spot of this list. Ash dying in Pokemon I Choose You has been seen as a rival to the first movie. This movie brings another scene that is more than likely this generation of Pokemon fans' standout moment, trying to match the feeling Pokemon fans had when they saw Mew and Mewtwo striking Ash. With Ash and Pikachu struggling to protect one another from Marshadow, and the Pokemon controlled by it, the constant bravery shown by both of them to try and sacrifice themselves for each other is a scene to really remember. Seeing Ash be attacked by all these Pokemon while defending Pikachu and begging Pikachu to go inside the Pokeball, all leading up to Ash being blasted by the Pokemon controlled by Marshadow, and having him fade away and disappearing was something to behold for the first time. I mean, there were some parts that did need to happen. Pikachu didn't really need to speak English during this whole section, or at all. But maybe that was just a setup for the audience to feel what it's like for Ash to die when a pop-up scene of Pikachu speaking comes out of nowhere that no one was ready for.
I always want.
Bruh.
Much like a blast from these Pokemon. Seeing Ash manage to convince Pikachu to get into the Pokeball to block the attacks, then seeing Pikachu come out of it to a disappearing Ash, trying to put the hat on him before it's too late, being brought to tears by Ash's death, and unleashing the most powerful electric attack there is, wiping everyone out of sheer sadness, was one hell of a scene. But witnessing the two be reunited and Ash coming back to life after thinking he just can't escape dying again, much like the franchise as a whole, but seeing it relish in time, aging magnificently as if it got younger, like Ash, was an incredibly memorable moment out of all the Pokemon movies. This is also a pretty confirmed death too. For the other deaths, you could maybe argue Ash doesn't fully drown and he was saved and just passed out. Maybe he was just knocked out by the electricity and they took his passed out spirit. Maybe he didn't freeze to death and was 1 degree away before the heating got turned on. Maybe he was alive in the stone. But arguing that off-brand Jello death is a bit difficult, as is the one where he is sent into the literal spirit world after his body dematerializes into particles and needs to be called back into the real world. Usually when Ash gets saved, it's by things like Frogadier just Spider-Man web shooting him before his back touches the lava when saving his Firebird. But this savior was by Ho-Oh and Pikachu's love and affection put together to not only awaken Ash from the spirit realm, but also us in the audience when he spoke English.